Friend of the channel. I think Charlamagne is a friend of the channel
Yeah,
at this point. We've talked to him like 3 or 4 times. Reluctantly, it's not like I'm proud to say, I'm not necessarily proud to say it, but we've mentioned the Breakfast Club and him and Envy several times at this point on this channel. And now Charlamagne is catching some backlash because of comments that he made uh, on DEI, which, as you can see there, DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. For anyone who is unaware of what this is, it's a practice that started to get implemented mostly in corporate and professional structures after 2020 to try and correct systemic racism. That's basically what this boils down to. Um, I guess, corporate America, everybody got on board after 2020 and said, let's fix the world and make it better. And DEI is one of the things that came as a result of this. Now, Charlamagne frequently is a host on The Daily Show on Comedy Central, and he made a topic, or not he made a topic, but he had some talking points during his monologue on DEI and how he thinks it's garbage. And some people are not appreciating the fact that he feels this way about DEI. So this kind of topic is right up Conscious Approach's alley. Surprise. Surprise, surprise. So first of all, we'll give some context, of course. So this says Charlamagne the God calls DEI mostly garbage during Daily Show monologue. Radio personality and best-selling author Charlamagne said that God called DEI. I think this is a typo. I think what they mean is author Charlamagne the God called DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion, mostly garbage, and said it's pretty much just corporate PR. The guest host on The Daily Show Wednesday. Yes, they keep casting him. So that was some yellow journalism going on there with whoever wrote this. The New York Post reported that the Breakfast Club co-host slammed DEI initiatives as basically ineffective during his monologue, that also made light of the programs that many corporations and organizations across the nation integrated in 2020 after the disgusting murder of George Floyd. The truth about DEI is that although it's well-intentioned, it's mostly garbage, okay? It's kind of like the Black Little Mermaid, said Charlamagne. Just because race is hated doesn't mean it's good. And I'm right, because every one of you has sat through one of those diversity training sessions and thought, this is some BS. He said, I'm not surprised these programs didn't work, and here's why. It's just corporate PR. They want good vibes. Then he said, real DEI is only going to come from Black leadership. So taking the gamble that this video is not going to get flagged for copyright infringement, I think we should be okay. Comedy Central, I believe, is fair use on the internet, but we will find out. We will find out whether that is correct or not. But I'm going to play about a minute and some change of what Charlamagne said on The Daily Show that has a ton of people at this point pissed off at him.
DEI. DEI stands for Dr. Dre, Eazy-E, and Ice Cube. Yeah. Y'all cheering out there, but do you want with attitude coming to your office? These right wingers are crazy, right?
What?
But here's the part where you all stop applauding everything I say. The truth about DEI is that although it's well-intentioned, it's mostly garbage, okay? It's kind of like the Black Little Mermaid. Just because racists hate it doesn't mean it's good. And I'm right, because every one of you has sat through one of those diversity training sessions and thought, this is some bullshit. And it's not just you. Over 900 studies have shown that DEI programs don't make the workplace better for minorities. In fact, it can actually make things worse because of the backlash effect. Remember DARE from school? Y'all remember DARE? Yeah. She said, woo. DEI training is like DARE for racism. And you all know how effective that was. I was sitting there going, oh shit, there's a ton of fun drugs I should try. I didn't even know about Molly. Thanks, Officer John. But the biggest failure of DEI is that the number of black people in power at big companies is basically the same as it was 5 years ago. In fact,
All right, so that's pretty much the gist of it. So that has a lot of people, disagreeing with him, of course, as you would imagine. People who are in favor of such things as DEI, they have serious issues and with what he said there, those comments saying that it was garbage. So there's been some backlash that he has been dealing with. Um, at the time of this recording, I'm not sure if he has, uh, you know, added any more commentary to this to try and defend himself. I'm not exactly sure, but a lot of people are coming from Charlamagne's rack because of what he said about diversity and equity and inclusion in corporate and professional settings and how it's mostly garbage. Um, what do you make of those comments from him? Do you agree with the backlash, or do you think he has a point?
Oh man, what a trap. I'm gonna choose my words carefully here. Um, this guy, I can't believe he did this. Um, Now, first of all, um, the makeup. First thing that struck me was the makeup. The monotone orange, lighter than his normal hue, reaching past it. I think that's like the first person I've seen where they had the makeup go all the way to the back of his scalp. I mean, that was crazy. But and the eyeliner, my goodness. I'm saying all of that to say how corporate that is. It's a lot different from Breakfast Club. And I figure his monologue pitches, since he is a funny guy, I figure his monologue pitches would be a lot cleaner and he wouldn't be staring at me like he's scared. Um, the next thing is, well, who the hell wrote this? And what was their purpose of writing this joke and having Charlamagne be the person to deliver it? This is no different than what he does on the Breakfast Club, honestly. He's in my opinion, the black face for corporate interests that have something to tell black people. And he's supposed to be seen as some authority, I suppose, in our community. I guess that's what they think. And having him be the person to deliver this as to say that it's ineffective. I don't think this is his place to say this. He can run up any statistics that he wants to bring up or whatever and cherry pick. But at the end of the day, I don't even know why this is any of his business to be saying live on air. Is my point. I had mixed feelings about affirmative action. I did. Because I feel as though the more that we accept handouts, the less inclined we'll be to, pick ourselves up and do things ourselves. So I got a mixed bag of emotions on that. So much the same here with the DEI stuff. But one thing I'm not going to do is have somebody write a joke for me about it, then pat me on the back, put a whole bunch of makeup on my face, and say, hey, now go say all this extra stuff on top of it too. I don't agree with this. I felt like DEI, whenever I hear it in other things, I felt like it didn't turn into dog whistly things for people who don't like black people, and they go around throwing DEI around like it's a slur, like people don't deserve whatever they deserve, and it's to me that's garbage. So for him to pick up a talking point of racist people, like he said, oh yeah, he made a joke about that, but for him to pick up a talking point like that and drill it into the thing as if all black of America is supposed to agree with this and everybody else is supposed to agree with this, I don't stand for that. So I agree with the backlash. And again, he just gets another check mark in my clown category. And for ironically, the guy that's always loving to give out donkey of the day, I like to give his ass donkey of the day for him saying that statement. So what are your thoughts, sir, on Charlamagne, the peon, saying that he doesn't stand for DEI?
Um, I don't have a problem with folks who are feeling some type of way because he's the one who said this. Because yeah, I mean, between the Breakfast Club and the rest of his corporate dealings, Comedy Central, it doesn't get more corporate than Comedy Central. Um, One of the reasons why Dave Chappelle left the $50 million on the table and decided he was not going to do Chappelle's show anymore was because he realized that the point that he was trying to make with his show was not being received. He was like Chappelle was attempting to shed light on the various ways in which non-black people view black people in the world. That was the joke. That was the point of those skits on that show. But what Chappelle came to realize was the audience came to believe that Chappelle was just making fun of black people. And once he made that realization, he decided that the original intent of this is no longer serving me, so I am not going to do this show anymore. And he's gone on record. Part of the reason why he feels as though that became the case was because although he was the talent and the creator and the chief writer, him and that other guy, Neil Brennan, the decision makers at Comedy Central, it was a room full of people who didn't look like him. And the corporate shareholders and all of these individuals who were responsible for signing his checks and greenlighting new seasons and determining what does and does not get put on that show was largely being dictated by people who didn't look like him. So that all goes to say it doesn't get more corporate than Comedy Central. Now, of course, this was back in the early 2000s. I don't know if Comedy Central is any different now. Why would I know? I'm not a part of that corporate media empire, so I don't know what goes on there. But I do not blame anybody who wants to suggest that a person such as Charlamagne, who's giving this kind of a joke on a show on Comedy Central, uh, I don't besmirch anybody who thinks right message, wrong messenger, and therefore you're going to criticize it or have backlash towards it because of the person who's delivering the message. I don't have an issue with that. However, if we're just going to look at the joke on his face or the monologue on his face, I don't entirely hate it. I don't entirely hate it. So, quick story. At my current job, and this individual, she and I still communicate from time to time. If you're watching this video, yes, I'm talking about you. I'm not going to say her name. But at my current job, the people who comprise the marketing team, we got together one day and we decided that we were going to create original content for the various channels that we owned in the company. And I was all for it. I thought it was a great idea. So essentially we came up with this idea that all of us were going to create something that was original based upon our own interests. And so I came up with the idea to write an interesting article about my favorite podcasts because I'm big into podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts. And so I was going to write this original piece that we were going to publish to the article and then share a couple of videos and put stuff out on Instagram and whatnot about my favorite podcast. So we were in the conference room. This was back before we were remote. So we were all working in the office and we were in a conference room conceptualizing what this looked like. And when I started to speak on what my idea was, I put it out there. Yeah, I'm going to write a piece on my favorite podcast. So I'm looking forward to doing this. This person, my colleague, this girl who I work with, this woman, she was like, oh, okay, that's a good idea. But remember, make sure that when you're writing this to include LGBTQ and women and all of that stuff in your list. Now, I don't have anything against these people, these groups, these whatever. Nothing against them. But me, JV Wins, at the time it wasn't applicable. I don't listen to podcasts that are conducted by people from the LGBTQ community. I don't listen to podcasts that are conducted by women. I listen to podcasts that are conducted by the people who created them whomever that may be, man, woman, white, black, Latino, I don't give a damn. Like usually I'm listening to stuff about social commentary and sports. Whoever runs those shows, that's who I'm going to spotlight. That's what I listen to. So I'm not going to mechanically add stuff into my own content if it doesn't apply. I don't listen to shows from women. I don't listen to shows from people from the LGBTQ community. I don't do it. I just don't. It's not that I intentionally am avoiding it or don't like to. It's not a part of my listening as a podcast consumer. This wasn't an acceptable response to her. She was like, that's not good. We need to make sure we're being inclusive. And I'm not going to stand for us continuing the status quo when we know it's wrong. Now, I understood her passion, but I also was not going to allow what I foresaw was my own personal brand becoming diluted and watered down because I was going to pigeonhole something into it that didn't otherwise belong just to satisfy a requirement that she threw in there because of something that she felt. So I ended up recusing myself from the project altogether. I decided I wasn't going to be a part of it because at the end of the day, you guys can go ahead and do this. And, ideologically, we just aren't aligned in this. And so I'm just going to step away and you guys can do whatever you want to do. No hard feelings, but I'm not going to bend the knee to forcing something like this just so that we can be a part of, showing the community that this company is about this kind of stuff. So that was one instance in which I actually encountered something like this. Now, it happened to not be about race. It happened to be about gender/sex and, LGBTQ stuff. But nevertheless, I felt as though I was being forced into a situation in which I had to pigeonhole something into something that was going to be a creation of my own doing just so that I can satisfy something that someone else wanted. I didn't appreciate that very much. So I walked away from the project. That's not to say that I don't think companies need to do a better job about being inclusive, but it also cannot border on pandering and forcefulness either. There has to be a healthy balance that gets struck. So when I hear Charlamagne's comments, yeah, I kind of cringe a little bit because he's the one who's saying this stuff. And he's just kind of, it's like, okay, well, bro, you want to talk and you're doing this on Comedy Central. To me, that's kind of funny. It's a bit ironic. But at the same time, when I look at the landscape and I'm trying to determine what has been the value of DEI, I ask myself, how do I feel about the fact that and I've gone on the record to say this when we've talked about other subjects on this channel before. ESPN. ESPN is one of those companies that's really trying to show the world that they're on the right side of history. Because everywhere that you look, there's a woman or a black person or, a person who is LGBTQ, whatever. And okay, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But what I also do have a problem with is we're going to fire Rachel Nichols just because she has said publicly that she does not want to be a victim of ESPN's mission to force DEI policy and have her not be able to be rewarded with a position that she feels she deserved through the work she put in. Like, I thought that was wrong. Like when the whole issue with Maria Taylor came out and somebody on the sneak tip recorded a voicemail that Rachel Nichols was leaving and then put it out on the internet, just some shisty shit, like completely underhanded. And at the end of the day, all she was saying was, hey, listen, I don't have a problem with Maria Taylor, but I deserve to be the host of NBA Countdown. I have more skin in the game. I'm a credible journalist. I've been doing this for 20 years or however long she's been doing it. I don't feel as though I should be left on the cutting room floor and have this opportunity to be given to Maria Taylor simply because ESPN is trying to push DEI. And I, if I'm being honest, can respect that. Even if I, in spirit, would, in all likelihood, under most circumstances, defend something like DEI. So I just kind of feel like in certain ways, a lot of it is being kind of taken too far, where it does border on pandering and just doing weird shit. Like, don't turn James Bond into a black woman. What are we doing? Like, if you want James Bond, if you want a black woman to be the next badass, ass whooping secret agent, create an original IP. Create a new intellectual property, write an original story, and have the star of the movie be this black woman who's shooting up shit and kicking ass and being badass. But don't turn James Bond into a black woman. What? Why are you doing that? That to me is cringeworthy. And I know there's a lot of people in the world who feel like it would be great to see a black woman who's James Bond. I think that would be silly. If James Bond, the character, was originally incepted to be a white male, so be it. Create a new IP. Create new IPs. Use your creativity out there in Hollywood. Create new IPs and have these new badass secret agents be these women and these people of color and these minorities. What's so wrong with that? But what we want to do is make James Bond, make 007 a black female. So, in my opinion, I think stuff like that is cringe, as noble and well spirited as DEI may be. So, that's kind of my 2 cents on it. Charlamagne is a weird guy to say this, because to me, he is someone who does toe a corporate line. And I don't even think I don't think that's a subjective opinion. I kind of feel like that's a fact. I mean, look at where the guy works and look at what he's done throughout his career. He's kind of a corporate dude. And I'm not trying to castigate him necessarily for being a corporate person. That's the route that he's chosen for himself in his life. And some people are corporate and some people are not. He just so happens to be a corporate dude. And as a corporate dude, it does seem a bit weird that he's saying stuff like this. But at the end of the day, do I think that there are some ways in which DEI is, ill applied? If I'm being honest, I would have to say yes.
No, I agree with that. I mean, I've even said on here a number of times that I didn't use the term DEI, but I did mention that I don't like the fact that they recast things, put black people there, or they got to have an Asian in here somewhere, a lesbian couple. Or, I know I want to see all that. I don't care for all that. But my thing is, why not have Jon Stewart say this? Why not have Stephen Colbert say this? Why not have anybody else say this? Why roll out Charlamagne for this level of criticism? Because it's not like this wasn't going to get backlash, no matter who said it. So why roll his ass out there? So this is my problem with the situation, is that him and his do boy energy, I just can't stand it. He's willing to do anything for these people. That's part of his corporate line toting. And his whole thing is, use me however you want. I'll say it. What you want me to say? Oh, okay. I'll throw that out there. And so my thing is that the reason why it comes off to me as if he really, because he also brought race into it. He didn't say nothing about genders either. So if he was in here talking about, LGBT stuff and throwing that in there, how that needs to stop too, I'm all for it. But his message was more or less racially related, so much so he even brought up race somewhere in there as a punchline of his joke. So to me, I agree with DEI is something that is aggravating. It is cringe. I'm not even going to sit here and lie about it. And I already told you that I was on the fence with affirmative action, being a benefactor of affirmative action, and probably DEI, my damn self. But I do feel like things need to change. But as far as having this guy roll out here and clearly tell jokes that wasn't penned by him, if it was penned by him, it wasn't 100% penned. I mean, they got writers for these monologues. So my thing is, roll somebody else out there, have somebody else say these things. But for Charlamagne, out of all people, to be coming out here and saying these things, I just took that as just, again, him being a shield and just being rolled out to say any and everything that they want everybody else to think. And you somebody sit down on a breakfast club and they sitting there talking or whatever, and here he comes unmuting, making it homoerotic, making it inclusive. The only reason why he got this job is because of DEI. and he's sitting up there talking all this mad stuff like he made it off grit. You know, he probably made it off grit, gripping pillows, Diddy style, and doing. No, man, I don't get Charlamagne, him and Envy. Them some weird people. So I don't know what type of parties he attend, but he be up there and he be rubbing them elbows with them people, and them people give him things to say. And hey, wouldn't it be funny if we made a joke about DEI? You know, just say how useless it is. Let's just do that. You know, because they don't like it either. I'm pretty sure the writers, what I mean. I'm pretty sure they don't like that every skit or everything that it probably limits their creativity. We were frustrated. We want to get this out. This is my problem with this. I don't feel like this is a universal statement being made by Charlamagne the God himself with his thought process. I feel like this was more agenda based. And last thing I'll say is that the comedian's role historically was to make jokes and do things on behalf of the king and things like that. It's to mosey people into a new way of thinking. They're supposed to they laugh their way into our door instead of saying, "Can I get in?" And so with that, a lot of their agendas that they like to push, they push through jokes, push through humor, push through their movies. So I look at this as no different as making Charlamagne the face of this joke. If he wanted to sit down and have a real conversation about it or whatever, but yeah, fine. But for him making a mockery out of it the way he did, again, I'm not for it. I'm not for it, but for different reasons. And if he had put that better in a joke, I wouldn't have felt some type of way. But to me, it felt forced. To me, it felt like, of course, he was reading off a teleprompter, and of course, it was written and penned by people that weren't inclusive. So he can go kick rocks. Charlamagne the douche. That's what I call the man. So yeah, I don't like the guy. I guess that's more or less where my stance is. But hey, man, forced stuff in movies is cringe. I ain't gonna sit here and lie to you, man. Like, and they need to stop that. But everyday people that's trying to work and they need some diversity in that office, I'm not mad at that. Because in today's day of time, man, people need their checks, man. So I'm not against that part of it. But when it comes to the movie screens and stuff like that, I do feel like it's cringe. But wrong messenger, I guess. Not feeling it. And roll Jon Stewart out there with these controversial ass jokes. But now they want to pick Charlamagne. So
I mean, Charlamagne's not a comedian. He's just a media personality. I don't even know what to call him. So like, yeah, he's not a comedian. So he definitely didn't write any of it or anything like that. But at the same time, I've heard him, or rather seen him, say things that you can tell the community is not going to be too appreciative of those comments. So he has somewhat of a track record for saying things that's going to piss off people from the community. But at the same time, it is a matter of, to me, it's just a situation where he wasn't doing this on his own YouTube show, if he even has one. I don't know. Like, I don't know if Charlamagne has his own show, his own podcast, or whatever. Like, to me, there's a difference between Stephen A. Smith saying something on ESPN versus Stephen A. Smith saying something on his own YouTube show. Mm-hmm. Like, Stephen A. Smith is a corporate dude. Like, he's corporate too. But it comes off just screaming corporate when he does it on First Take, versus when he takes those same comments to his own YouTube channel, where Disney and ESPN has no dominion over what he has to say. Mm-hmm. So I think it would have been a bit different if he was doing this not on Comedy Central, especially given the history of what went down on Comedy Central with Dave Chappelle. I think a lot of people who are old enough to remember that, they kind of keep that stuff in mind. But at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff is just kind of trash to me. A lot of it is trash. A lot of it is trash to me. Don't give me black woman who's 007. Don't give me black Clark Kent. Give me an original character that's a black superhero. Like, if Miles Morales, he's a black and He's a biracial black and Puerto Rican Spider-Man character, but he's an original intellectual property. It was a character created by Marvel. So if they made a Miles Morales Spider-Man movie, you hear nothing out of me because it's like, yeah, this is a character that was created and give him his own movie. Why not? But don't make Peter Parker a black kid. I don't want to see that shit. Like that to me is pandering. And it comes off to me screaming of, fine, y'all been complaining all this damn time. Here you go. We'll give this to you. It's very self-serving. It rubs me in the same way that it rubbed me when they gave Halle Berry and Denzel Washington both the Best Actress and Best Actor Oscar at the Oscars, respectively, in the same exact year, as if that wasn't intentional. So all these years, y'all been doing what y'all been doing, and now all of a sudden, because black people start complaining, you want to give Halle Berry the award for a movie in which she didn't really act that good in it? Now I'm not gonna say nothing about Denzel and Training Day because that shit was on that. Training Day was the shit. But Halle Berry, Monsters Ball, and the fact that they did it in the same year, oh, that's not a coincidence. And of course, I don't believe that there is a such thing as coincidence. So clearly, something like that was intentional. And if you want to talk about agenda, that's just as bad of an agenda, in my opinion. Force feeding people stuff just to placate them. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know where you can find the middle ground, but I don't like either extreme. I don't like people being excluded, nor do I like people being forcefully included. And what we see going on right now, especially in these corporate spaces, mainstream television, the internet, to me, it just it feels like forceful inclusion. And I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like the fact that every single time I turn on Netflix, it's a LGBTQ show or a black people show. Every other show on Stars is a show with black people and they're selling drugs and shooting people and going to prison.
Yeah, that's not
Now the entertainment industry says that's inclusiveness because hey, this is a show that's featuring a majority African American and Hispanic cast. That's inclusion, which we champion. But look at the subject matter and look at the prevalence of that kind of subject matter featuring that kind of a diverse cast. That's a good thing for the world too. Like there's got to be a middle ground with some of this stuff. So I feel you on Charlamagne being a duck and a weirdo. I get you on that. But this DEI stuff to me has become beyond the pale. And you're not going to convince me that all of a sudden, because the world sees a guy getting killed by the police on video, that suddenly the world cares about being inclusive. The world is just as the way it is now as it was back then. The only difference is corporations want to appear to be on the right side of history. That's the only difference. Before, they didn't give a shit about that. Now they just want to look as though they are on the right side of history. Hence, we get forcefulness, which to me is largely the way DEI is applied. So, I don't hate it entirely. I just think it needs to be appropriated in a different direction with a different type of energy. And sure, that means maybe putting more black people in boardrooms. More shareholders need to be black people, more black people, women, whatever group you want to highlight. I don't got enough time to go down the list of all the marginalized groups in America. Whatever group you feel is most affected by this stuff, that group needs to be more represented in boardrooms, in CEO rooms, VP rooms, shareholders, stakeholders, all that kind of stuff. But what you're going to get with that conversation is a deeper dive into economics and socioeconomics, which is heavily nuanced. And it's not as simple as saying, let's make James Bond a black person or let's make James Bond a black woman. So, that's kind of how I feel about this stuff. Charlamagne is kind of a odd person to lend their voice to this particular issue, but that doesn't make it not an issue in its entirety. And somebody smarter than me, more insightful than me, more intelligent than me, who's more well versed and educated in how corporations work, can provide their expertise on the best, most effective ways to apply DEI, but right now it is not being applied very well, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'll just say for Charlamagne, because I agree, bro. It's the extreme is ridiculous, but for Charlamagne, a product of DEI himself. The only reason why he's on The Daily Show, which has been historically white men. Then they went to this beige man,
Right.
and now they went full blown black. Right. And the only reason why they did that is because of DEI. So for him to be sitting up there with his DEI face and DEI makeup and going up there and saying that is ironic. And that's why I'm like, what are you telling me right now by saying this? And what message are you trying to get to the people, knowing damn well you're a product of the same thing that you're complaining about? What agenda are you trying to put across? What is this? So I agree with you, bro. I'm not for the extremes because I've complained about it myself. It's cringe. But wrong messenger, man.
Yeah.
Get out of here, man. Literally the pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I don't think that what they're doing on Comedy Central is the result of anything but DEI. I would definitely have to agree. And it isn't just black. You mentioned black, but they're just really going full bore. They want to look like they're on the right side of history.
Yeah.
Women, minorities, LGBTQ, everybody under the sun. It's just one giant rainbow coalition of rotating panels of hosts and TV shows on these networks. And it doesn't get more corporate than these TV networks. It just doesn't. So I get you. I'm with you on that. Somebody smarter than us needs to come up with the solution. But what we got going on right now ain't it. It's not it. It's not it. I'm sorry. No shouts out to Charlamagne. No,
get out of here, donkey of the day, man. Get out of here. Hey, but like and subscribe to the channel, man.